Today is Easter Sunday. But what else is it? Huh? April Fool's Day. You know, I did a little research. You don't have to do too much research to find this information. But since 1700, Easter has fallen on April 1st only 11 times. The last time that Christians observed Easter on April Fool's Day was in 1956. I was only 8 years old. And the world is vastly different today than it was then. You know, April Fool's Day is a weird little holiday. It really is. It's generated perhaps by the joy of finally shedding the darkness of winter. But I'm not really sure. Donna told me this morning before I left the house she had the Weather Channel on and they're forecasting 1 to 3 inches of snow by tomorrow morning. We call it a holiday, but the only people I ever knew of who could stay home from work on that day were the coal miners. In their contract, it was known as Miners' Holiday. Back when I worked in the industry, many April 1st I spent over on Glady Fork over in the mountains fishing and digging ramps. Typically a prank is played on some hapless soul who has forgotten the perils of April 1st, and I've had my share pulled on me. Have any of you had an April Fool's prank pulled on you yet today? Anyone? I see one hand. What brave soul is willing to raise their hand over there? All right. Well, today, Easter is arguably the highest, most holy day of the Christian calendar. And as holy days go, it doesn't get any holier than this. And since it's April 1st, we have to ask, who, after all, is the April Fool? Is the April Fool Pontius Pilate? The Roman procurator, he was the one who cowered in the face of certain religious leaders who said that failing to deal harshly with a treasonous villain like Jesus would not be viewed favorably by the Romans. He's the one who washed his hands of the affair. He permitted the execution, and not only did he permit it, he allowed it to happen in the name of the emperor. Then it's Easter, and Jesus is risen. Sorry, Pilate. April Fools. Perhaps the disciples are the April Fools. Let's be clear, there's no doubt that many of the disciples felt foolish as the crucifixion approached. They'd given up their jobs for this Jesus. They'd left their homes and their families to follow this man on his journey up and down Palestine. Yes, they'd been witness to some phenomenal events, stuff that they could not then and could not now explain. They had pinned their hopes and future on a man they believed would liberate them. And now he was led away as a lamb to slaughter. So the disciples went home. They abandoned him, betrayed him, and wanted to forget him. And now it's Easter morning, and Jesus is risen. April Fools. Perhaps the April Fool is Peter, the commercial fisherman. Oh, Peter, he started out enthusiastically, no doubt. He defended the rabbi right and left. He was the one who identified Jesus as the Christ, the Son of the living God. He swore never to abandon his Lord. He even drew a sword against a cohort of Roman soldiers coming to arrest Jesus. Then Peter lost faith faster than a rock sinks in water. When Jesus is at last captured and led away, he denies he ever knew the man. And a person who said he would never leave Jesus leaves. What a fool. And the list of fools on Easter morning is endless. But perhaps, folks, the greatest fools are all of us. Certainly much of the world believes that we're crackers. Completely foolish souls who need Jesus and religion as some sort of an emotional crutch. It's likely that a fair percentage of the general population who, although identifying themselves as religious, that think that we committed followers of Jesus take things too seriously. We who love Jesus, who follow his teachings, who obey or try to obey his word, are regarded by many as fools. Perhaps, though, there's another sense in which we are Easter fools. We're fools when we claim to believe, but behave as though we don't. We're fools when we affirm belief in the resurrection of Jesus. We declare that he is risen, but we live as though Jesus were still in the tomb, cold and decayed. We affirm belief with our lips, but do not confess Jesus with our lives. So why bother? We are indeed fools. And now, friends, it's Easter morning and Jesus is risen. April Fools. But the greatest April Fool of all is Jesus Christ himself. He's the fool of Easter. He's the trickster, as it were. He's the one who called the devil's bluff in the greatest jest of all time. Even during his ministry, Jesus acted in foolish ways according to most contemporary believers. He rejected a comfortable lifestyle. For friends, he had tax collectors and hookers and lepers and the poor and the needy. Not a CEO among his inner circle. He told the wealthy to give away their wealth and follow him. He knew that there was power in being somebody, but there is truth in being a nobody. He opted for truth because he knew that power emerges from truth. He chose weakness instead of strength, vulnerability instead of aggressiveness, truth instead of practicality, honesty instead of influence. He stuck his fingers in the eyes of the religious authorities and often seemed to deliberately bait those who had the power to kill him. And then they did. But death couldn't hold him. The grave couldn't contain him. On Easter Fool's Day, God made foolishness the wisdom of the world. Jesus was God's fool, a stumbling block to the Jews and foolishness to the Greeks, whereby God reconciled the world to himself. Today, Jesus is alive. He, for the sake of joy that was set before him, endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. It was Jesus who emptied himself, taking the form of a slave, being born in human likeness, and being found in human form. He humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Pretty foolish, it would seem. But this isn't the end of the story. Therefore God highly exalted him and gave him the name that is above every name. So at the name of Jesus every knee should bend and every tongue should confess that Jesus is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. On this Easter Fool's Sunday, perhaps this is what you and I have the opportunity to do. as fools for Christ, God's fools, we might consider in humble reverence, reaffirming our allegiance to the one who pulled off the greatest jest in history. Perhaps we might reaffirm our belief that Jesus is Lord. It's quite simple, actually. Just a quiet reaffirmation that goes like this. Lord Jesus, many people might not think it's the smartest thing in the world to follow you. In fact, they may think I'm crazy, and that you yourself are something of a lunatic. But I have just enough foolish faith to believe that you pulled it off, that you conquered death and brought life and light into the darkened world. So I recommit my life to you, to be your fool, as it were, to live for you and to seek support in that company of fools that we call the church, even the church that meets here at Glendale. Amen. Confirmation class and I are going to be serving Holy Communion to you here in just a few moments. And what I'd like to give you, we would like to give you an opportunity to recommit your life to Christ. Either here at the altar rail or quietly in your seat. Won't you consider recommitting yourself to Christ on this Easter Fool's Day?